And then I think this is something that could touch home to anybody, no matter where you are in the grand scheme of life. And this general concept that we want to talk to you guys about was paying it forward, paying it forward. Um, what do you think? When I say pay it forward, what comes into your mind? How do you dissect that concept?
I think so. If we just step back and just look at paying it forward, when people say pay it forward, what it means, and I'm not going to use Merriam's Webster's dictionary's definition. This is just layman terms. This is just HPN. This is just Harry terms. So for me, when I think the term pay it forward, essentially it's, hey, you do something for somebody else to help better somebody else. You know, at the end of the day, we're all people, as people, as human beings, we should be following the golden rule. Do unto others what you want others to do unto you. And when I hear about people paying it forward, it's simply just doing some sort of nice act of kindness, and you just do that for somebody just because there isn't a reason to do it that is going to financially motivate you. You're not doing it because you want somebody to say thank you. You are generally doing some sort of nice action gesture because you want to help somebody out, and you're doing it because you just want to do good, is what I think about when I want to define pay it forward. you know and what about you? When you hear pay it forward, what do you think about before we go into some examples of stuff?
So for me, I think of when you're a little kid, that's something that I think comes naturally. The concept of wanting to kind of share and kind of help out other people, like a little child with their mother, the little child wants to give something to their mother or show it, present it to them, because there's something about um, letting something go. Oops, letting something go to to give to someone else, and then in the end, you love that feeling that you get. But I think as we get older, we typically kind of lose that feeling. So for me, paying it forward is more than just, oh, I'm giving something away because X, Y, and Z. It's something that is inherent in each and one of us from the beginning. We kind of walk away from it, but then we may have to retrain ourselves to do it. And sure and behold, once we start to retrain ourselves towards it, you start to enjoy the benefits of it. And a lot of the benefits, from my opinion, is that positive energy that comes back. And that to me reminds me of like the endorphins that a runner might get from a runner's high, and that might help relieve stress, and it might allow one to just be happier in the end. So I think being able to pay it forward could help us all in the end from uh, even a physiological point of view. But I have no actual things to back up what I'm saying, but these are the thoughts and the feelings that I have when I think about pay it forward.
So for you, when did you first hear about this topic? What was the first idea? What was the first memory you had of what paying it forward meant? Who described it to you? Tell me a little bit about that.
So this is gonna sound really corny, but the first time that I actually kind of put it to words might be from that documentary called The Secret. Do you remember that documentary called The Secret,
I
where
remember my aunt and one of my
my
cousins
aunt,
really talking
yeah,
about The
yeah,
Secret. And so go on, go on.
so like that secret to longevity and being happy and being just one with yourself is being able to just pay it forward. If you give something away, eventually that's going to come back in one way, shape, or form. It not necessarily the exact same form that you gave it away, but maybe you might regain peace, calm, etc., etc. And it's an experiment in the initially. And I would challenge everyone to try to find something that you can pay forward. And it doesn't necessarily have to be monetary things or even physical things. It could be um, thoughts. It could be experiences. It could be just looking out for your fellow man. Something that I want to do with my life to help with the whole pay it forward concept is I want to be able to mentor others. And by being a mentor, I just want to showcase that, if I can do it, or then you can do it as well. And I want to be able to provide different outlets for other people to utilize, and mainly the younger people, to help them achieve whatever it is that their heart desires. I want to be that person that comes back and says, whatever dreams that you had when you're younger, but then you realize, oh, I can't do it. Maybe you can do it. Maybe you're just looking at it from a different perspective. Maybe there's something else that will give you that sense of belonging as well as satisfaction. And maybe I can help you see it from another point of view or another angle.
I think for me, when I first thought or heard of the concept of pay it forward, what I learned was I think I was either junior or senior in high school, and I remember actually seeing a movie called Pay It Forward. So
Really?
those of you guys who aren't familiar with the movie Pay It Forward is essentially it's a movie. I'll read. So I got Wikipedia up. So it says here, Pay It Forward is a year 2000 American romantic drama film based on the novel of the same name by Katherine Ryan Hyde. It is set in Las Vegas and it chronicles 12-year-old Trevor McKinney's launch of a goodwill movement known as Pay It Forward. So essentially, in this movie, you have a seventh grader who goes to school. I think it's like a social studies class, and the teacher, wants to give a class an assignment to try to figure out a plan that or some sort of action that will make the world a better place. So the seventh grader named Trevor, his thought process is, he wants to build some sort of charitable program and he wants to call it Pay It Forward. And in this program, what he wants to do is he wants to be able to find somebody, some random person or not random person, do some sort of act of kindness and or do that favor, and then that person who he does the favor for, that person then has to do a favor for three other people, and it's supposed to grow and grow and grow. And his thought process is that one action from this one individual then can eventually help steer positively the lives of lots of other people. And I don't want to ruin the movie for you guys, but I think it's a movie that you guys should watch because after you watch that movie, you'll realize that one person's actions can really change the way that people live. And as we go on with talking about paying forward, that's one of the big mantras that I have in my life as well. And as you have that passion for mentoring others, for me, that pay it forward mantra is something that I use, with all the people who I mentor, with all the students that I precept. And it's something that I want to share with them because it's something that has affected me personally. And I guess that's where we'll go on to our next conversation is, how has paying it forward affected me? So one story that I give all my collegians, so I'm a mentor for, some students over at the University of Florida Orlando campus. I am a faculty advisor for one of the collegiate groups, Kappa Psi, and as being their advisor, I have an opportunity to be able to work with lots of pharmacy students who are trying to better themselves, become pharmacists, and as a pharmacist, hopefully become future leaders in the world. And when I meet with each one of these individuals, I always tell people that I want them to, first I tell them to watch this movie as a group because it's an opportunity for them to be able to together see this act, and hopefully as they do this, then themselves do something similar to affect the lives of other individuals. But my personal pay it forward came when I was an intern at a Walgreens pharmacy over in North Carolina. And I remember specifically going to lunch. There was an intern meeting. So all the interns and the preceptors ended up going to the meeting. And then after that, we all decided, hey, let's go out to eat afterwards. And then after that, we'll end our day. As I was waiting in line, it was time for me to pay. And as I was about to pay, my boss slash mentor slash preceptor tells me, hey, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And I told him,
Mm.
well, no, I'm okay. I mean, obviously you're my boss and you know how much I make, so I can pay for it, no worries. And he said, no, 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 no. I will take care of this. And I said, well, what can I do to repay you? And he said, the way that you can repay me is to remember this action and you remember to do this to others in the future. So that was
Mm.
my pay it forward moment. And from that moment on, I remember that. From that moment on, every time I had an opportunity to mentor, to teach, to be able to work with anybody, I use that story as my pay it forward moment. And, I take somebody out to eat, I'll sit and talk to them. We'll talk about how they're doing, what's going on with their life. And I then tell them this story and I tell them the way that they can continue this is to remember the conversation that we had just now. And for them, when they are in my shoes, for them to be able to pay it forward. So that's something that I've done. Gosh, I'm trying to think. I'm 34 now. I probably had that happen to me as a 22, 23-year-old. So I would say for the past 10 years,
Wow.
that one moment I have continued to go over and over and over again. And it's something that is so ingrained in the collegiates that I work with. And it's something that they still continue to this day. So that's my big pay it forward moment. And I still remember it clear as day. And one thing that was pretty cool is randomly, I decided to reach out to that preceptor who did it to me. And I
Yeah.
reached out to him on Facebook and wrote him a message, say, hey, you probably don't remember this, but, and I pretty much told him the story. And I told him how, based on that event, I've done all this stuff. And I thanked him for doing what he did. And he wrote me this nice message back saying, oh, I can't believe it. Oh, man, this is so awesome. Thank you for, sharing this information with me. It's something that I needed to hear at this point in my life. So, that was an awesome moment too, because I wanted to make sure that he knew how a simple gesture like
Right.
paying for somebody's lunch can change somebody's outlook on life to the point where hopefully they're following in that person's footsteps. So that's kind of my big pay it forward moment.
Wow. So those acts of random kindness really go a long way. And if more people can start doing that, you'd be surprised how quickly the world can change. I really do truly believe that. For me, it wasn't a specific pay it forward scenario like that, but it's more or less a lot of little things. Like I'm really, really, really appreciative of those above me, specifically, like even now in podiatry, in my profession. Uh, the individuals who are willing to teach and show me things from the point of view of, yeah, maybe I don't actually know how to do X, Y, and Z procedure, but they're taking the time out of their day to show me step by step wise. And whenever I don't understand something, they're very patient with me. So when people show a lot of patience with me, specifically when teaching me something that I don't understand, I'm extremely, extremely appreciative of that, to the point where and that's the second time I did that. I myself want to be able to do that to others. So whenever I'm in the teaching role, I don't like to put anybody on the spot if they don't want to be put on the spot. But I want to be the type of person that takes their time to make sure they understand what they need to understand, and I don't put any judgment on individuals because I'm very appreciative for those who did the same thing for me. So I want to continue doing that. And I hope more people do the same type of thing as well.
Yeah, because if you think about it, where you are in your life, like you said, in about a year and a half, you're going to be done.
Right.
And you're going from the person who is learning their craft, who is putting the hours in, who is a novice, who is slowly becoming a person who is able to master the art, and then all of a sudden you're going to be there. And
Yep.
and again, your story, again, is a remarkable story of how you shared it with us in that previous podcast, how you went from, going to Duke, doing your stuff, to being a podiatrist now, and just all the things that you overcame to get to this point. You're now going to be in a position where you're going to be able to help out somebody like you. And there's
Right.
going to be somebody that you're going to see, and they're going to say, you know what? I can identify with you that. And, I just know, like, when you were teaching at those public schools in Philly, and I remember you telling me stories about how you would tell them, hey, I remember you told me a story how you were telling this class that, hey, you're going to be finishing teaching, and the reason why is because you're going to be pursuing podiatry. And people looked at you, and I think they realized, wow, if, Mr. Marvin can do this, I can do that too. And with the way that you were able to reach those kids, you're going to have people that are going to reach out to you, like, because you were teaching what, seventh, eighth graders, right? It was all over the place, right? It was like middle
I
school
was
and
all
high
over the
school, right?
place. Yeah. I did middle
So if you
school,
think
high
about
school.
it, I mean, you've been out of podiatry school for 4 years, or from when you started podiatry school, that was what, 6 years ago? So
Just
when you were
about.
teaching,
Yeah.
it was like probably 7, 8 years ago.
Right.
And these guys were, junior high schoolers. These guys are now in college. These guys are now going to be pursuing their profession. So I would guarantee you that you're going to have somebody that randomly finds you one of these days and say, hey, Mr. Marvin, you remember me? My name is such and such, and you were the substitute teacher that, ended up sticking around the whole year, and, you're, you helping us through these years. I remember that, and you helped me get to where I want to be. And for you, you're not even going to remember it, or you're not even think it's going to be a big deal. But to that person, that's the reason why they are where they are. And that's what paying it forward is all about, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, man.
So I know you kind of talked a little bit about, this passion for mentorship. One of the things that I wanted to ask you was, what are one of your future goals or your plans when it comes to paying it forward, and, the passion that helps keep you doing the things that you do?
Yeah. So right now, I'm currently in the process of talking to the school district of Philadelphia, and my goal is to be able to go back and do some sort of like mentorship slash career day slash talk to individuals who are interested in the healthcare field, and be an in between type of person, so they can tell me, they can ask me questions they may have when it comes to how did you prepare, what's a typical day like, what are things that I could potentially look out for, and then also let them know how life is from my point of view as a resident, and then my experiences prior to, and hopefully that could be a spark plug to get individuals who are thinking about it. Maybe I can get them to take one more step closer towards achieving that goal. And I also want to be able to maybe provide a shadowing opportunity, so that, or set up a construct that allows some of these students to go and shadow different healthcare personnel that they're thinking about maybe pursuing in the future. So I want to be able to provide actionable steps to allow some of these students to go from point A to point B, and then help cheer them on as they're going from one aspect to the next aspect. So that's something that it's in the works, and I'm very confident that it's going to be able to actually take place sometime this year or even next year. And then another thing that I'm involved with right now is I'm one of the podiatry mentors, and different college students who are interested in the field, they could sign into the American Podiatric Medical Association. And when they look for podiatry mentors, I'm one of the individuals who can come about and answer questions. And I can also be another shining light as they figure out if they want to do podiatry and what things that they can do in order to make it a reality. So those are some of the things that I'm actively doing right now to help pay it forward. And it's all because, I want to help, and I just want to make life a little easier for others.
Okay, pretty cool, man. So I know for me, and we've kind of talked about this before. I don't want to go into too many details because, I'm still in the works on this. But one of the things that I want to do is we've talked about the Marvin Brothers podcast, and, this is a podcast about, just our outlook and our vantage point in life and what we feel like we can do just to help others. I do have plans on having a spinoff on this podcast, and I don't want to go into all these details because I got to still make sure that I have it up and running. But essentially, I do want to do something to help promote literacy, financial literacy. I think growing up, there's so many things that we learn when we're growing up. You go to school, and when you go to school, you learn about history, math, science. And I think that one thing that we don't learn enough about is financial literacy. So for me, I've got some ideas of things that I want to do that's around that realm, just to help educate students, individuals on how to deal with money. Because I think that, as we grow up, if we're focused so much on, you gotta you go to class, you learn how to have good grades. You're supposed to go to college, and then all of a sudden you go to college, and then once you finish college, then you had a job, and all of a sudden you start working and you provide for yourself. But who really teaches you about finances? So, I've got a podcast that I want to, come out that help individuals do this. So it's something that's pretty exciting, and I'm definitely looking forward to, launching it. And as soon as I launch it, I'm definitely going to let the viewers and all of you guys know when we do it. But that's one of the passions that I have, is just being able to invest in our youth and make sure that they have an understanding of financial literacy, because it all starts when you are a child. And when you have that foundation of how to handle money, when you have that foundation of understanding what money means, then that is a huge head start on life. I mean, I know the three of us, we're very fortunate to have parents who were able to help us understand basic topics. You work hard. When you work hard, you save. But I want to bring it to that next level so that, when you're a collegiate, or even before you're collegiate, when you are in high school, and one of the biggest career choices that you have is, what do I do after high school? What can we do to help these individuals make a right decision? And a lot of that has to deal with, are they looking at it from a financial perspective? So that's one of the things that I want to be able to do to help pay it forward, to help teach our youth, so that, again, our goal, in life, in this podcast, in life in general, is just to make the next people better than what we are. That's what our parents did to us, and I want to make sure that we're able to do that for others. So that's kind of my big project, future goal that I want to try to work on.
Yeah, man, that sounds like a fantastic goal. I'm there rooting you on. I know that you're going to accomplish what you set out to do, and the sky's the limit. So, what do you think? I think we touched on a lot of cool things, and it's been a very, very successful interview thus far. Do you have any other things you want to add?
Well, I think one of the things that I want to start doing with these podcasts too is, as we start interviewing people, and we talked about this before, so it's not going to be a surprise to you, but when we do this podcast, we're going to do our current events. We're going to talk about our day. We're going to have the topic that we discuss. We're going to have our interview. And then what I'd like for us to do is to be able to go back, look at key points that the person who we interviewed had bring up and kind of share our topics about it. So, this podcast, we're about close with this episode, but for me, it's just hitting on the high points that we talked about with paying it forward, why it's important. So I think for us, we talked about paying it forward, how it is a action or a gesture where you are doing something to better somebody else in the future, and you just do it because you are trying to help the betterment of mankind. We talked about, how specific points in our life, we remember somebody paying it forward to us and how that has stemmed our future and where we're going, and how it stemmed us to the point where we have ideas of things that we want to do to be able to help other people get better. So I think that these are great topics that I want to make sure that our listeners and viewers are paying attention to. And, one thing that I would, you know, kind of want our people to listen to and think about is what are some things that you guys can do to pay it forward to people who are around you. So that is one assignment that I have for you, America, is what is one thing you can do to pay it forward. And, who knows, maybe you can reach out to us at muslimbrothers@gmail.com, or maybe you can reach out to us on our Muslim Brothers podcast. You can leave a suggestion as you give us a nice 5-star rating review and tell us one thing that you're going to do to pay it forward. So, I do want to hear the staff, and I do want to hear the listeners, you know, tell us a one way that you're gonna be able to pay it forward to us. And what I want you guys to do is when you subscribe to us, when you put the comments in, write it in. What is one thing you're gonna do to pay it forward? And who knows, maybe the next episode we can go back and we can take a look at what people have written down, and we can read one of those topics and we can read one of those suggestions and we can share that to the world. So that's what I want you guys to do in this episode. What do you think, Marvin?
Sounds great. Love it. Let's make it happen.
Okay, so it's 12:03. I got work tomorrow. You got work tomorrow. I
Yeah,
know
man.
it's time for me to get out of here. So, anything else you want to say before we say goodbye till next week?
I want to take us out. I'm Marvin, and you are listening to the Marson Brothers Podcast, signing out.
All right, we are out. I got to remember how to stop recording. Okay, I am stopping the recording now. This is Harry Patrick Marcelin. I appreciate you, man. Get some sleep. Happy birthday. We out.